Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a place so blistering, so brutal, that if you're wearing socks right now, you might want to kick them off. You've just landed in the kitchen of a sugar plantation in the French Caribbean, somewhere around the late 1700s. Picture this. The air is wet with steam, your skin sticks to your clothes like honey on linen, and everything smells like smoke, fat, and fear. Welcome to your new job, where your shift starts before sunrise and ends somewhere between exhaustion and collapse. And spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how many of us are sharing this strange moment together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge across packed dirt still damp from last night's rain, the rising heat already making your shirt cling to your back. The kitchen looms ahead, though kitchen is a generous term. It's a separate structure from the main house, with thick stone walls and a roof that traps heat like a furnace. Smoke spills lazily out of open windows and wide slats near the rafters, curling into the pre-dawn sky. Inside, it's hell. No, really. Fires have already been lit. Flames lick at the bases of 3 massive hearths, and the smell, the smell, hits you like a punch. Not just wood smoke, but animal fat, yesterday's rot, boiling molasses, and something metallic like scorched iron. The woman next to you doesn't say a word. She's already got a knife in one hand and a cleaver in the other. Her apron is stiff with yesterday's grease. Her hair is wrapped in a frayed cloth, soaked through with sweat. You try to ask her where the bread is stored, and she just gives you a look. You'll learn quickly that talking wastes air. And air here comes at a premium. You're handed a bucket with a few sad root vegetables, taro, cassava, half a yam with a bite already taken out of it. Your task is to scrub them clean in a basin of water so murky it could double as broth. You dip your hand in and feel something slimy drift past your fingers. You don't pull your hand out. Every movement feels 10 times heavier than it should. The ceiling is low, the fire is high, and your lungs are doing overtime. Heat rises and clings. There's no ventilation except that pathetic smoke hole, which mostly funnels ash right back inside. Historians still argue whether this kind of separate kitchen setup was designed for safety, to keep the big house from burning down, or if it was really about keeping enslaved labour invisible, their noise and smells tucked neatly away from the white family's senses. Either way, you're here, not there. Oh, and just a heads up, your feet are already blistering. The dirt floor has been beaten down over decades into a sort of sizzling clay. You thought you were just standing still, but your soles are searing from the radiant heat. You shift from foot to foot like you're dancing, but there's no music in here. Just the rhythmic chop, chop, chop of blades on wood. There's a pot the size of a bathtub bubbling at the back. You don't know what's in it, and you're not going to ask. Best case, it's soup. Worst case, it's some animal that wasn't entirely dead before it went in. You glance into it and get slapped in the face with a wall of steam. Your eyebrows instantly feel lighter, like they've been singed off a little. In this moment, you're struck by the absurdity of it all. You've read about plantation cuisine in books that mention spicy Caribbean stews and delicate pastries sent to Europe. They never mention that those were cooked by people working 12-hour shifts, armed with tools barely good enough to carve soap. A fun fringe fact? Some plantations made their cooks wear iron collars with bells. Yes, bells. So the white overseers could hear them moving and know they weren't sneaking food. Doesn't that make your Fitbit seem a little unnecessary? The smell of caramelized sugar wafts in from the mill, sweet and oddly sinister. It blends with the cooking meat and congealed lard into a scent that will live in your nose for the next 40 years. If you live that long, which you probably won't. A chicken is shoved into your hands. It's still warm. Its neck's been cut, but the feathers are mostly intact. Plucking? That's your job now. Never done it before? Doesn't matter. You'll figure it out after you nick your thumb on the second wing bone. No one here has time to train you. The head cook, a man named Day with hands like old bark and eyes that haven't blinked since sunrise, tells you with a grunt where to dump the guts. Don't waste the heart, he says. Masters like heart skewers. He doesn't elaborate. You keep your mouth shut, not because you're scared, though you are, but because you notice something. No one here is speaking unless absolutely necessary. It's not fear, it's survival. Words mean time, and time means mistakes, and mistakes mean pain. The hierarchy is strict. Mistakes go up, punishment comes down, someone drops a ladle, and the clang echoes like a cannon. Everyone flinches. A man by the fire goes completely still, then resumes, like nothing happened. You don't ask why. You just keep plucking feathers while sweat drips from your chin onto the chicken's breast. There's no clock in the room, but you can feel the sun rising. The air thickens, time slows. You've been here for an hour and already your body wants out, your knees ache. Your throat burns, your shirt clings to your ribs, and you still haven't had a bite to eat. Congratulations, you've survived the first hour. Barely. You're starting to think Dede, the bark-handed head cook, might be part lizard. He doesn't sweat, not even as he leans over a pit oven filled with coals hot enough to melt sanity. His breath comes slow, controlled. Meanwhile, you're blinking sweat out of your eyes like it's a competitive sport. You lift the chicken now stripped of feathers, your fingers burning with 1,000 tiny cuts. No one gave you gloves. No one even looked at you when they handed over the bird. The entrails bucket behind you smells like something that could peel paint off a ship. And then you hear them. Footsteps. Heavy boots crunching down on gravel outside the kitchen. They're too slow for workers, too loud for slaves trying to slip through unnoticed. The overseer. He ducks inside the kitchen with the swagger of a man who doesn't cook and doesn't care to learn. His coat is crisp despite the heat. His boots polished like he didn't just stomp through chicken guts on his way in. He eyes the room like it's a theatre and he's here for the matinee. You freeze. So does everyone else, except Dede, who just stirs the pot a little slower. He's seen this play 100 times. You? This is your first dress rehearsal, and the lead actor is carrying a whip. The overseer's name might as well be Control. He doesn't yell, doesn't need to. His eyes do the work. They sweep over the workers, linger on the open flame, glance at the knives. For a flicker of a second, you think he's going to say something, maybe even help. Instead, he walks to the corner and points to a spilled basket of cassava. You dropped it. Pick it up. You didn't. But you bend anyway, because arguing in here gets you more than just scolded. You're new. You don't even have a name yet. In a place where nobody listens to your voice, you're functionally mute. Historians still debate whether the kitchen was a lesser punishment compared to the fields. Sure, you're not cutting cane in the sun, but here, in this blistering cube of heat and expectations, you're under constant scrutiny. The field has distance. The kitchen has proximity. Every dish can be watched. Every mistake is personal. You pick up the cassava, dust it off, and try to look grateful. The overseer smiles just slightly. Then he's gone. Not a word to anyone else. You exhale. Wrong move. You slow, a voice says beside you. It's the same woman from earlier. The one who greeted you with silence and now graces you with disappointment. Her name is Amelie, and she's been here longer than anyone remembers. Her hands are calloused, her expression unreadable. She tosses you a cloth sack of dried peppers. You're meant to soak and grind them for sauce. There's a mortar and pestle as big as your head in the corner. You get to work, learning quickly that every pepper you split releases a sharp sting into the air that goes straight for your nose and eyes. You try not to cough. That's a rookie mistake. Coughing gets attention. Instead, you grind, tears streaming down your cheeks, pretending it's just from the heat. Not the burn, not the fear, not the complete disintegration of your dignity. In another part of the kitchen, a younger boy drops a bowl. It shatters. Everyone flinches again. This time, Dede does look up. He doesn't yell. He just tilts his head toward the door. The boy, maybe 12, maybe younger, walks out silently. He won't be back. No one says a word. A quirky little detail here. On some plantations, cooks developed subtle ways to communicate with each other using the rhythm of their chopping. Fast, fast, slow could mean watch out. 3 solid chops might mean he's listening. You haven't learned that code yet. You're just desperately trying not to cut your own knuckles while pulverizing chili into paste. Your knife, by the way, is laughable. It was probably sharp in 1742. Now, it's more of a suggestion than a blade. You saw it a hunk of meat that might once have been goat. Maybe pig. Maybe something unnamed. The bone splinters the blade's edge, and you glance at Amelie. She shrugs. Use the cleaver. It weighs more than a newborn. You hoist it with both hands and slam it down. The sound is jarring. Final. and your hands feel like they've vibrated straight through your wrists. You're not cooking food, you're surviving it. By now, your back is drenched, your shoulders screaming, and breakfast isn't even done yet. You glance at the narrow shelf running along the back wall. There's something shiny up there. An old pewter bowl, some kind of broken scale, a few spoons bent into unnatural angles. One has initials carved into it, probably from someone who thought ownership of anything might make this life feel less like quicksand. Rumour has it, one cook tried to poison a dish meant for the master. Not with herbs, those were too traceable, but with crushed insect shells, the kind that gave you belly cramps so intense you couldn't stand. They say she vanished the next morning, no warning, no goodbye, just gone. Whether that's true or not, you're not about to test any theories, because in this kitchen, food is politics, it's power, and you're at the very bottom of that pot. You reach for a jug of water to rinse your fingers, then realise it's not water, it's lard. Someone laughs behind you, a rare moment of humour, cruel and fleeting. You chuckle too, just to survive the moment. But inside, you're unravelling. The breakfast rush is building. You hear footsteps outside again, not the overseer this time, but a line of servants with trays, ready to carry the meal to the big house. And here you are, your shirt soaked, your hands filthy, your eyes red from pepper fumes and sleeplessness, preparing food you'll never taste for people who don't even know your name. You're one shift in. And already you know, this place doesn't want you to survive. It wants to consume you, piece by piece, until nothing's left but smoke and grease and silence. You don't remember falling asleep. That's because you didn't. You just blinked, and when you opened your eyes again, it was still dark. Not because it's night, no. It's just the pre-dawn sky pressing down like a lid. And your body? It's trying to scream. Quietly. Your spine feels like it's been swapped for a bundle of firewood. Your neck clicks when you turn it. Your feet pulse in time with your heartbeat, which is currently whispering, "Run." But there's no running here. Not before breakfast service. Not unless you want to find out how fast someone can catch you while holding a soup ladle. They wake you with a kick. Not cruel, just routine. It's Amelie again. Somehow already upright, tied up in her apron like she never left. "Fire's out, you fix it," she says, her voice barely more than gravel. You nod, because nodding is faster than talking. You shuffle toward the hearth, which looks like a dragon's mouth waiting to be fed. Last night's embers are buried under a blanket of ash, still faintly warm. You drop to your knees and start fanning with a palm leaf, coaxing them back to life. Here's a thing historians don't always emphasise. Fire on these plantations wasn't just for cooking. It was a constant, critical tool. Heat for processing cane, for making soap, for treating wounds, for punishment. Always fire. You feed in kindling, twigs, dry leaves, strips of sugar bagasse. The smoke curls into your eyes, into your brain. You blink, choke quietly and keep going. Once the flames catch, it's like waking a monster. The kitchen groans with heat again. By the time the sun crests over the sugarcane, you've already been working for 2 hours. No one's told you the time. You just know by how soaked your back is and the way your stomach folds into itself, hungry enough to eat the smell of boiled yam if it could. You hear the roosters now, late lazy things compared to you. That's the cruel joke. You wake before even the animals do. You cook for everyone else before feeding yourself, if at all. Today's breakfast is plain porridge for the field hands, something a bit fancier for the big house. Today assigns you to root chopping again, bland, reliable. You're trusted with no spice, no meat, no final touches, yet. That's for the inner circle. Those who know how to taste food with their eyes and make it sing without a sound. You scrape at a stubborn taro, the blade slipping with every drag. Your wrists ache from yesterday and the rhythm is off. Didet walks by, pauses. You brace for comment, but he just mutters, "Too thick, thin it." "Ooh." You nod again. It's always easier than responding, and that's something worth pausing on. Your voice. You haven't used it today, haven't needed to. In this kitchen, communication is an ecosystem of looks, nods, glances, and the occasional barked word. It's not silence. It's survival. Some scholars argue that this suppression of speech was strategic, that keeping enslaved people from forming bonds through talk made them easier to control. Others say the silence was chosen, a form of dignity, of preservation. Either way, your throat has forgotten what it's like to speak freely. You want to say something to Amélie. Ask where she's from maybe. But your mouth is dry and your mind hesitates. What if asking is seen as wasting time, as stepping out of your lane? So instead, you keep your questions where it's safe, inside your head. Someone's coughing violently near the door. It's the boy from yesterday. Wait, not the same one. This one's smaller, new, fresh meat like you. Fresh. He's coughing up phlegm that looks like it has bits of soot in it. Quirky fact. The lungs of plantation cooks were sometimes compared to those of chimney sweeps. Constant exposure to smoke, ash, and burning animal fat left permanent damage. There were no masks, no clean air breaks. Your only respite was when the fire finally died, and if that happened during a meal rush, you would die with it. The boy keeps coughing, no one reacts. That's the rule. Pain doesn't earn you sympathy here. It earns you replacement. You rinse your blade, poorly, in a pan of yesterday's wash water. There's something growing in it, maybe a slimy cousin of algae. You don't ask, you just rinse and return. Next to you, someone is slicing plantains so fast it looks like sleight of hand. It's not for show, it's desperation. This is how you keep from being reassigned to a worse post. The mill, the slaughterhouse, or no post at all. Outside, the sound of distant drums reaches your ears, faint, rhythmic. Not from the plantation. Never from the plantation. It's someone out in the Maroon Hills, maybe. A community of escaped slaves keeping their culture alive, even as the rest of this island grinds it down. Some say they send songs downwind on purpose. A kind of rebellion, a reminder. Historians debate that too, whether these musical traces were messages or just memory. It doesn't matter to you right now. You just like the sound. It means somewhere, someone still breathes without fear. You look up and catch Dady watching you, not harshly, just watching. He jerks his head at a small side task, laying banana leaves out to receive hot dumplings. You move to do it. Simple enough. One step closer to proving you're not a waste of space. While spreading the leaves, you burn your hand. Not badly, just a flash of heat. But it's enough to leave a mark. You say nothing. You do nothing. Pain is just another seasoning here. And still, no breakfast for you. You pass by a cooling rack of griddle cakes meant for the overseer's wife. They smell of nutmeg and guilt. You know the rules, don't touch. You look, inhale, then walk away. Hunger becomes an accessory, like your ragged apron or smoke-woven hair. You see Amélie again. She's stirring something thick in a blackened pot. Her face is expressionless, but her hands move with certainty. For a second she meets your eyes. Then she looks away. The porridge is ready. The trays are assembled. The clatter begins again, the musical chaos of the service line. Feet shuffle, hands grab. Voices rise just enough to manage logistics. You keep working. You've forgotten what your own voice sounds like. But maybe that's the point. The porridge disappears in minutes. Not because it's good, but because hunger doesn't wait for elegance. You watch as trays of steaming bowls vanish down the path to the field gangs. The big house gets separate service, of course. Plated, garnished, carried with forced grace by servants in freshly starched livery. You, however, are still standing in the same pair of sweat-soaked linen drawers you slept in. You're about to turn back to the kitchen when a voice barks out from behind. Knives! Scrape and rinse. You freeze. Oh no! You've heard the others grumble about this job. Knife duty. It's not glamorous. It's not safe. And worst of all, it's personal. See, everyone here uses blades. And no one trusts anyone else with theirs. Sharpening someone's knife wrong, too thin, too wide, too off-angle, can lead to a lot more than just passive aggression. Your job is to scrape the gunk from the handles and blades, rinse them in whatever water is left, then try to sharpen the edges on stones worn smooth by years of fatigue. Your palms are already stinging from the taro and the firewood. Now, you'll be massaging metal for the next hour. The first knife you're handed is Dédé's. Of course it is. You take it carefully, like it might bite. The handle is sticky. Your stomach churns. Something crusted there isn't just food. Could be goat blood. Could be worse. You grip a rag, close your nose and start scraping. The stone is rough, set into a corner table, barely higher than your knees. You crouch down and drag the blade over it with trembling hands. You've never sharpened a knife like this before, but no one asks if you've done it. No one trains you. You either figure it out or someone slices a finger tomorrow and blames you. And here, blame doesn't stay verbal for long. Historians still argue whether plantation kitchens borrowed knife styles from French culinary traditions, or developed their own hybrid tools, half cleaver, half machete. One thing's certain, every knife here looks like it was forged out of fury. The stone hisses as you work. Sparks occasionally flick off the edge, barely visible in the dusky light. Your forearms begin to ache, your hands slick with both sweat and something thicker. And then, a slip. The blade skips. Your fingers feel heat and pain in the same instant. You hiss quietly, clutching your hand. Blood. Not much, but enough to leave a mark. You glance around. No one saw. Or maybe they saw and didn't care. Either way, you keep working. You rinse the blade in a tub of stale water. The surface ripples with oil and something like skin. A cockroach scuttles along the rim and disappears into a crack in the wall. You try not to gag. Quirky tidbit. There was a Caribbean superstition in some plantation kitchens. If your knife slips and draws your blood, it means someone's cursing you, maybe jealous of your position. In your case, you hope that's true. A curse would at least mean someone noticed you. Once the blade is clean and sharpened, you set it carefully on Dede's station. He doesn't say thank you, just picks it up, inspects the edge with a thumb press, and nods. It's the most approval you've gotten all day, maybe all week. You move on to the next knife, then the next. Each one with its own peculiarities, curved tips, weighted backs, notched spines. Some have carvings in the handle, initials, hash marks, crude hearts. You wonder about those. Who had time to carve anything? Eventually you return your last blade and stretch your back. Bad idea. Your spine sends a sharp jolt of protest, and you nearly collapse. You haven't sat in hours. Lunch prep, someone shouts. You blink. You thought it was still breakfast. Time here is liquid. Or maybe molasses, slow, sticky, suffocating. Amelie tosses you a sack of onions. Peel and slice, thin, no crying. You don't cry, but not because you're strong, because you're too dehydrated. You sit cross-legged on the floor, onions in your lap, knife in hand. Your eyes burn, but nothing comes out. You slice slowly, trying to match the rhythm of the others. Fast, fast pause. Fast, fast pause. Somewhere behind you, someone hums a lullaby. It's soft, mournful, and so wildly out of place that it makes you stop. You turn to look, but whoever it was has gone silent. The slicing continues. A rat skitters across the far wall. No one reacts. They live here too. One worker once joked that the rats run the inventory. You believed him. You reach for another onion and spot a scar on your wrist that wasn't there before. It must have happened during the sharpening. You trace it, then let your hand fall. You want to scream. Not in pain, just in protest. Against the heat, the silence, the repetition. But you don't. Because the kitchen isn't built for screams. It's built to mute them. By the time lunch is halfway prepped, your hands are trembling. You haven't eaten, haven't drunk, and still your body moves, like a puppet strung up by fear and duty. You hear laughter from the big house courtyard. Light, easy, unbothered. Maybe children. You stare toward the sound, then look back at your hands, brown with onion skins, sticky with juice and sweat. You wonder what it feels like to laugh like that, or even to speak without flinching. But you don't ask. Because here, the only thing you're allowed to raise is a knife. You drag the basket of onion peels out behind the kitchen into the waste trench. The sun is fully up now, pressing down on you like a millstone. There's no shade, no breeze, and definitely no relief. Just the buzzing of flies and the distant drone of cane carts rolling past on groaning wheels. The trench stinks. You'd get used to it eventually, they say, but no one actually does. It's a bubbling stew of grease, vegetable scraps, bone fragments, and other things. You dump the peels and hold your breath, but it's too late. The smell clings to your nostrils like punishment. You wipe your hands on your apron and turn to head back, but your mouth feels like cotton and iron. You need water, real water, not the reused slop for washing knives or boiling yams. There's a barrel by the kitchen door tucked under a lip of shade. You've seen others drink from it, but only at specific times. You sneak over, cup your hand and scoop a bit. It's warm, stale, tastes faintly of rust and old wood. You drink it anyway, and almost immediately someone barks, "That's for the broth, not your belly." You turn and see a man you don't know, tall, with one eye slightly glazed over, and a cane that's seen better decades. He's not angry exactly, just tired of repeating the same warnings. You mutter an apology, and he just waves you off. If the cooks fall, who feeds the field, he mutters, more to himself than you. Historians still puzzle over the food hierarchies on these plantations. The field slaves were numerous, yes, but the cooks, they were strategic. You fed the engine, you kept the machine humming. That meant your collapse had ripple effects, so you don't collapse, not yet. Instead, you're pulled into lunch prep. The kitchen is now buzzing, louder than before. There's breadfruit roasting, beans boiling, and strips of dried saltfish being hacked into submission. You're assigned to root mashing, taking the boiled taro, yam, and cassava and pounding it into a doughy mash. Simple, right? Ha! The pestle is a log. The bowl is half a tree. You plant your feet, raise the weight, and drop it over and over. The sound thuds through your arms, into your spine. And every time it lands, a little splash of hot starch smacks your arms and chest. Your hands blister. Again, you don't stop. Dede wanders by and sniffs the mash. Not sticky enough. You stare at it. It looks like the glue holding the kitchen together. Needs more cassava, he says, and oil. You nod. And here comes the fun part. The oil is stored in a jug that's been sitting near the fire since dawn. It's hot. It splashes. You pour carefully, and still burn your hand. Amelie sees you jerk back. She walks over silently, grabs a handful of ash from the hearth and presses it into your palm. It stings. Then it numbs. You nod your thanks. She doesn't nod back, but she doesn't leave either. Just waits until you're ready to resume pounding. That might be the closest thing to kindness you've received all week. A fringe detail. Some cooks on Caribbean plantations believed ash could draw out heat from burns, sort of an early, desperate form of first aid. Not medical, not effective long-term, but better than nothing. And sometimes, nothing was all you had. As you mash and mash, the kitchen swells with noise. Wooden spoons clatter against copper pots. Ladles scrape against iron pans. Someone is singing again. Soft, slow, like a hymn half remembered. Lunch is shaping up to be boiled beans, mashed roots, roasted breadfruit, and, if you're lucky, a little pepper sauce for the higher-ups. The food isn't bad. It's just made under pressure. The kind that doesn't release until something, or someone, explodes. You turn for a breath and spot the knife you sharpened earlier. Dede's. It gleams with something like pride. Maybe it's the light. Maybe it's the sweat in your eyes. Suddenly you feel the room tilt. Not much. Just enough. Your vision tightens, your knees wobble. You haven't eaten, haven't drunk, and your heart. It's pounding like the pestle in your hand. You grab the edge of a table. No one notices. Or maybe they do and pretend not to. Here, collapsing is private. Public failure is contagious. You breathe through your nose. 1, 2, 3, then back to the roots. Pound, pound, pound. Eventually someone brings you a scrap of plantain. Fried, slightly burnt. You eat it without tasting it. Too fast to enjoy it. But your body sighs with relief. It's not kindness. It's fuel. That's all anyone is here. By mid-morning, the sun has turned the walls into radiators. Your skin prickles with heat. You wish for shade, but there's none. Only corners that offer marginally less suffering. Lunch dishes are assembled with rapid fire. Bowls stacked, trays aligned, portions carefully measured. Not out of fairness, but to avoid accusations of favoritism. You don't serve. You're not ready for that level of responsibility, or exposure. Instead, you clean. Again. You rinse bowls in oily water, scrape pans with wood shards, and stack everything like a fragile puzzle. Your fingers are prunes, your nails dark with ash. But the work doesn't stop. It never does. You glance outside. The sun is blazing overhead. You've already been working for 10 hours. Maybe more. Time isn't measured in hours anymore. It's measured in meals, in burn marks, in breath. And you still have the rest of the day to survive. By now, the scent of molasses has settled into your skin like a second layer. It isn't pleasant. It's sticky and sour like sweetened meat gone bad. And it follows you everywhere. Even when you try to breathe through your mouth, it sneaks in, coats your tongue, and makes you wonder if this is what rot dreams of at night. You're back in the kitchen, but it feels more like a cave than a room. The smoke has thickened into a kind of atmosphere. Your eyelashes catch soot. Your shirt, already stiff with salt and sweat, is practically laminated to your body. If you tried to peel it off, you'd take skin with it. Right now, you're dicing okra. Small, sticky green fingers that ooze mucilage the second your blade kisses them. The goo clings to everything. Your hands, the knife, your sanity. There's no towel dry enough to help. In walks one of the younger cooks, arms wrapped around a jug that looks dangerously unstable. He's bringing in molasses from the boiling room, a separate wing of the plantation where sugarcane is reduced into thick black gold. You've heard the screams from over there, heard stories too. One man tripped and fell face first into a vat. He didn't die immediately. No, the molasses clung to him like honeyed lava. He screamed for 3 whole minutes, or so they say. Historians still argue whether the molasses operations were worse than the cane fields. Some say yes, the heat alone being deadlier than the open sun. Others say no, at least you weren't being whipped for slowing down. Here in the kitchen, you're not sure you want to know which version of hell wins the contest. The boy sets the jug down. The smell hits first, syrupy, thick, with an edge of char. You gag slightly, try to cover it with a cough. Dady sees and smirks. You'll smell like that in a week, he says, inside and out. You believe him. The molasses is ladled into iron pans, ready to be reduced again with spice and citrus peel. You're not in charge of that. You're still on okra duty, slicing until your fingers go numb. At one point, your knife sticks. You tug too hard, and a glob of okra flies into your eye. You blink, curse silently, and keep going. Amelie walks past and drops a clean rag on your station. You blink at her. She just mutters, "Don't smear it. Dab." You obey. Quirky detail. Okra was called ladies' fingers by European colonials, but enslaved cooks gave it far more colourful names. The green glue, boil slime, snake pod. Some even said it could seal a stomach from hunger for half a day if fried right. You'd settle for 5 minutes of relief right now. The floor is a swamp. Juice, grease, oil, foot traffic. You nearly slip while reaching for another cutting board. No one catches you. You catch yourself. Barely. Your ankle twists and a spike of pain shoots up your leg. You pause, hiss, then return to your station. There's no room for limping here. Lunch cleanup begins, which is less wiping down and more scraping like your soul depends on it. Every bowl must be scoured, every spoon accounted for. Why? Because once someone miscounted and a ladle went missing. The entire kitchen was whipped. Turned out it fell into the stew, no one ever found it. From outside you hear laughter again. The big house children, maybe. Their voices clear and unbothered. You catch a glimpse through the slats in the kitchen wall. White dresses, polished boots, parasols. One of them waves at the kitchen. You look away. Back inside, the molasses has begun to bubble. The scent intensifies. It's now overpowering, dizzying. You lean over the okra bowl and breathe through your mouth. Doesn't help. Everything tastes like burnt sugar. Dede calls for citrus peel. Amelie throws you a lemon. You catch it, barely, and begin zesting it with a jagged piece of shell that once passed for a grater. It tears the rind in strips, uneven and coarse. Your fingers follow suit. Don't zest too deep, she warns. White part makes it bitter. They hate bitter. You nod. Of course. They hate bitter. They live in a house with fans and porcelain sinks and windows that open wide. You live in a room that eats oxygen and spits out heat. The zest goes into the molasses reduction. It sizzles, sending up a plume of fragrant steam. It would smell pleasant if you weren't already marinated in suffering. The pot must be stirred, constantly. Not just stirred, but turned. A massive wooden paddle carved from tamarind wood is passed to you. Don't stop, Dede says. Molasses sticks. Burn your skin off. You grip the paddle. It's heavier than it looks. You stir. The liquid is thick as glue and just as stubborn. Each rotation takes effort. Your arms quake. The wooden shaft rubs your hands raw. Blisters form on top of blisters. You think about the irony of sugar, how it's supposed to be sweet. But here, in this kitchen, it's the bitterest thing you know. You stir and keep stirring, even when you want to scream. Eventually, Dede taps your shoulder and takes over. You collapse against the wall, dizzy. Amelie hands you a crust of hard bread. You bite it. It scrapes the roof of your mouth like stone. But you chew, swallow, try not to cry. You've survived lunch prep. Barely. Now comes the cleanup. And then, dinner. Because in the kitchen of a Caribbean sugar plantation, the only shift you ever get is from one meal into the next. You sit for 30 seconds. That's all you get. 30 seconds, squatting against the wall with a crust of bread in your mouth and the scent of scorched sugar still clinging to your eyelashes. And then someone kicks your foot. Not harshly, just enough to say, "Break's over." You rise on aching knees. Your apron is stiff, stained with things you couldn't name even if you had the words for them. Your arms feel too long, like they've stretched from all the stirring. Your back? That's been gone since breakfast. Dinner is coming. That sounds simple, doesn't it? One word, dinner. But in the kitchen of a French Caribbean sugar plantation, dinner is a storm that has to be built, managed, and survived. And you? You're about to cook for people who will never acknowledge your existence. You're sent to the far corner of the storeroom, a cramped, windowless closet that smells of mildew, dead onions, and something faintly fishy. Your job is to fetch rice, dried peas, and a jar of lard that's developed its own personality. The storeroom is dark. You don't get a candle. You reach by feel, your fingers brushing over rough burlap, slippery clay, and the occasional skittering rat. There's a bag of rice. You haul it out. It's heavier than it looks. Everything is. A whisper. Don't drop that. You spin. It's the boy again, the one who coughed up soot. He's in the corner, eyes wide, holding a gunny sack of lentils. You nod at him. He nods back. No words exchanged, but something passes between you anyway. Solidarity, exhaustion, the quiet agreement that no one in here is okay. Back in the main kitchen, the fires have been stoked again. Flames lick at iron pots like tongues eager for sacrifice. You dump the rice into a basin. Amelie tosses you a chunk of salt. Rinse it. 3 times, no grit. You rinse it twice. She checks and dumps it out. Again, with care. You rinse it again. Historians still argue whether enslaved cooks were permitted to take pride in their work, or if the relentless pressure made everything mechanical. The truth is probably both. You want to take pride in rinsing rice properly, but your hands are bleeding and your mind is chewing itself alive with fatigue. So you rinse because you were told to, not because you care, not right now. You move on to slicing peppers. Small, red, deadly. Scotch bonnets. One wrong touch, and your eyes will feel like they've been scrubbed with ash. You've learned to keep your fingers away from your face, the hard way. A fringe tidbit. Some cooks used pepper not just for taste, but as a kind of social armour. Rubbed a little on utensils or cloths to discourage others from stealing bites. It worked. Pain's a powerful teacher. You set the peppers aside and help grind allspice with a smooth stone. The scent is strangely comforting. Warm, sweet, woody. For a second, the kitchen smells almost human. Then Dede walks in with the meat. It's goat today. Or something goat-shaped. The skin's still on in places. You can see its cloudy eyes staring out from the sack. You look away. "You clean," Dede says, tossing you the knife. Not the good one. One of the smaller ones with a chipped tip and a blade so warped it looks like it's been chewed. You drag the carcass out to the back prep table. It's already crawling with flies. The table, not the goat. You hope. You brace the body, grit your teeth, and begin cutting. The smell is foul. The organs are still inside. You have to be careful, not to pierce the bladder, not to slice the bile sac, or the whole cut will be ruined. You learned that after watching someone else fail. The memory of the punishment sticks sharper than the smell. You cut, you peel, you scrape, you don't breathe. You glance up and see a flock of vultures circling above the treetops. You wonder if they're waiting for leftovers, or just for someone to fall. Inside, Amelie is making dumplings. Not the kind you eat at celebrations. These are heavy, starchy, weapons-grade chunks of flour and water, designed to fill bellies, not lift spirits. You carry the meat back in. Dede inspects it. "Too much fat," he says. "Trim better next time." There's no thank you. There's no good job. Just feedback and flame. The meat goes into the pot with peppers, allspice, and the kind of scalding oil that smells like it might contain judgment. You're sent to stir. Again. Always with the stirring. You wonder if your arms will ever return to their original shape, or if you're just becoming part of the paddle. The kitchen is so hot now that your sweat has stopped. That's when you know it's bad. When your body has nothing left to give, not even moisture. Your tongue is thick. Your breath comes in gasps. You ask for water. No one hears you, so you keep stirring. Dede suddenly barks. "Where's the ginger?" Everyone freezes. The ginger was rationed. Precious. Meant for the big house dishes. It's gone. He glares at the boy, the coughing one. I didn't, the boy says. Dede's eyes narrow. Amelie steps forward. I used it in the stew. My call. Dede holds her gaze, says nothing, then walks away. The boy exhales like he's been holding it for days. You make a note. Amelie is more than she seems. Dinner is beginning to take shape. Rice, dumplings, goat stew, plantains fried in reused oil. The scent is intoxicating if you don't think too hard about what went into making it. Trays are assembled, bowls filled, orders shouted. You are not among the servers. You are still on clean-up. That is your place. You mop the floor with a rag tied to a stick. The water bucket is black by the third swipe. Doesn't matter. You keep going. From outside, music plays. Faint. From the big house. A harpsichord, maybe. A tune with no urgency, no edge. It floats on the air like a ghost of something you'll never have. Dinner is almost over. You are not. You drag your feet back toward the storeroom, and it feels like you're wading through warm mud. Every part of you hurts. Not in one dramatic moment, but in layers, stacked pain on pain, until you forget what not hurting feels like. Your shoulders burn, your wrists pulse, your legs twitch like they're still working, even when you try to stop. Amelie meets you at the door. Her eyes flick down to your hands, then back to your face. You're slow. You nod. You are. She doesn't say more, just presses a rag into your palm and shoves you toward the basin. Washing dishes again. This time the water is nearly black. It's been used for lunch, then reused for dinner prep, then reheated with ashes to sterilize it. It smells like burned onions and regret. But you dip your hands in anyway, grabbing the first crusted bowl and scraping it down with a splintered bit of gourd rind. No one talks during dish duty. It's not forbidden. It's just that everyone's too tired to care. And besides, your hands are busy. Your brain is not. So you drift. You think about the others. The boy with the cough, quiet and quick. The man with one eye who knows every corner of the storeroom. Dede, whose face never changes, whose eyes see everything. And Amelie, who may or may not have taken a punishment for someone else today. They all have names, but not voices. Because here's the thing. In this kitchen, voices are currency, and most of you are broke. Some historians say that enslaved cooks were privileged compared to field workers. Sure, if privilege means standing in a firebox instead of under the sun, if privilege means you're expected to produce meals fit for royalty while bleeding into the soup. Others argue that cooks held invisible power, controlling food, watching the masters, gathering secrets. That may be true too. But power like that, it's a knife with no handle. You bleed just from picking it up, and you don't even know where the knife rack is yet. Someone drops a stack of plates behind you. The crash is enormous. You jump, so does everyone else. For a second, everything stops. Then Dede's voice, too many broken, take it from their pay. No one responds. Not the person who dropped them. Not anyone nearby. Just a quiet exhale of breath, and then scrubbing resumes. Plates break. Hands don't. You keep your head down. Wash, rinse, stack. By the time the last pot is cleaned, it's night again. The kitchen dims, but it doesn't sleep. Fires are banked, coals buried in ash to keep them smouldering. A few lanterns flicker near the far wall. Shadows stretch long and weird across the stone floor. You're told to sleep in the side room tonight. Not a room, really. A shed with a dirt floor and a few mats that smell like mice. You shuffle in and find a corner. You drop. Your body makes a noise when it hits the ground, not a grunt, more like a creak, like old leather. Your bones are talking now and they're angry. You lie there, staring at the wooden rafters. They're splintered and smoked black, like ribs of some enormous dead animal. Someone coughs nearby, the boy again, always him. A voice, soft, older, says, "Drink before you sleep." You turn. One of the kitchen women, her face barely visible, hands you a gourd. Water. Real water. Cool. Faintly metallic. You drink. You don't thank her. Not because you're rude, but because the thanks would catch in your throat. Instead, you just nod. She nods back. You lie there and try to think of nothing. Not food, not fire, not Dede's face, not the sound of meat sizzling in oil, not the burn on your arm now scabbing over. You almost sleep. Almost. But someone stirs near the door. Whispering, you keep your eyes closed. It was poison, the voice says. You sure? A pause. No, but the master's girl's sick. Bad. Can't keep food down. A longer pause, then, she eat that breadfruit mash? Yeah. Your hand was on that. Silence. Your hand. You're stirring. Your mash. Your breath catches. You weren't trying to do anything. You didn't even see that tray, but it was your shift, your spoon, your fire. The whispers fade. You lie still, wide awake now. Not from guilt, from fear. Historians often debate whether acts of resistance in plantation kitchens were deliberate sabotage or desperate accidents. Some believe poisoning was a quiet rebellion. Others think most poisonings were just spoiled meat, bad storage, tainted pots. Doesn't matter. If someone thinks you did it, the facts won't save you. Sleep slips away. You press your fingers against the dirt floor. It's cool, real. You focus on that, on the grains, on the grit. You're still here. But for how long? You wake to someone shouting your name. Except, wait, it's not your name. Not really. It's the name someone gave you on your first day, the one that stuck because no one cared to learn the real one. A single syllable barked like an order. You don't even flinch now when you hear it. You rise on shaking legs, dust still clinging to your side where you lay. There's no time to wipe yourself off, no water to splash on your face. It's morning. Again. Your muscles scream as you push open the warped wooden door of the shed and step into the morning haze. The kitchen is already smoking. Flames leaping, pots bubbling, shadows dancing across the walls like spirits preparing for another ritual. Breakfast, someone mutters as they pass you. Their eyes are sunken, their walk automatic. You join them, and just like that, you're back in the motion. Today's meal is for the field hands first. A gruel of plantains and stale maize flour, meant to be eaten fast and forgotten faster. Your job is to mash. Again. The pestle feels heavier, or maybe you're weaker. You don't remember the weight ever being this cruel. You stir. You sweat. You wait for the whispers. Nothing. No mention of sickness. No sign that anything from last night's conversation has taken root. Still, your heart flutters. You keep your head down, watching every ingredient like it might turn against you. Amelie is nowhere to be seen. That's not good. She's never late. She doesn't disappear. She's the constant. A human metronome for this kitchen's grim rhythm. "Where's Amelie?" you whisper to the boy. He shrugs, eyes flicking to the back door. You don't ask again. A tray clatters to the ground behind you. No one moves. Then Dede enters. He's dressed the same as always. Patched shirt, grim face, hands that look carved from salt and stone. But there's tension in his shoulders today. He scans the room, stops when he sees you. Your mash. Faster. You nod. Too fast. You slam the pestle down with a bit too much force. The mash slops over the edge, splattering your arm with hot sludge. You don't scream. You don't even wince. That part of you is shut down. You finish the bowl, push it to the edge of the table. Begin again. Somewhere, a tray creaks. Bowls are lined up. The food is sent out, but not to the big house. Not yet. The masters aren't eating today. That's the first real sign. You don't mention it. You just absorb the fact and store it, like every other unspoken rule of this place. Historians note that Sundays were often considered rest days on Caribbean plantations, but rest, of course, didn't apply to cooks. Sunday meals had to be grand, displayed, served in porcelain and silver, unless someone upstairs was sick. The kitchen, like the cane field, had its own way of knowing things, not from letters, not from orders, just from silence. A missing tray, a missing person, a missing appetite. The masters don't eat. Amelie is missing. You stir faster. The boy coughs again, longer, deeper. You glance at him, and for the first time he looks afraid. Not of the cough, of being noticed. It hits you. He's seen what happens to the weak. He knows what happens when you become a burden. You hand him your crust from last night. He takes it without a word, devours it in 2 bites. Behind you, someone starts chopping vegetables for lunch. The rhythm is off. Choppy, nervous. You ask no questions. Quirky detail. There's a folk tale told among some of the older cooks that the kitchen has ears, that the walls remember. You stir too slow. It punishes your hands. You whisper lies. It burns your tongue. You ask too many questions, and the kitchen makes sure you never ask again. Today, you believe that story. A group of men arrive at the door, not the usual servers. These wear coats. They carry nothing. Speak in clipped French. They scan the kitchen like it's a crime scene. Your pulse jumps. You look down. They don't stop. They don't speak to you. They leave through the back, heading toward the small garden behind the stew ovens. Toward the compost pile. You mash harder. You wonder if this is what justice feels like here. Not a trial. Not a question. Just the quiet disappearance of someone you relied on. The mash is done. You portion it into bowls. Someone steps beside you. It's the boy. "She gave me ginger," he says, voice quiet. "For the cough. That's why it was missing." You stare at him. He doesn't blink. "She knew," he says. "Took it anyway." A chill trickles down your back, cold and sharp despite the heat. "She didn't poison nobody," he adds. "She just used what she had." You nod. You believe him, because that's the real truth of this kitchen. You're always one gesture away from punishment, one kindness from danger. You go back to work. You have to. By midday, the heat has reached its peak. The walls sweat. The windows drip. You've been on your feet for hours, but dinner prep starts soon. You scrub a pot, stir a stew, chop what's left of the callaloo. No one speaks above a whisper. And still, Amelie's station stays empty. Your eyes drift to it, again and again. You don't know if she's gone for good. You don't know if she's alive. But you do know this. The kitchen swallowed her, and it's still hungry. The oven's mouth gapes open like some ancient stone god, radiating heat that could melt bone. You stand beside it, eyes stinging, arms aching, holding a paddle almost as long as your body. It's not for stirring this time, it's for baking. Today's bread must be ready for the master's midday table, even if no one's quite sure who's eating upstairs right now. Orders still come down, bread must rise, dough must not burn. And you? You are now the guardian of the brick oven. It doesn't feel like an honour, it feels like a trap. The oven has no temperature gauge, no timing bell, just smoke, fire, instinct. Dede points to the woodpile, jerks his chin, and that's all you get in terms of instruction. You add a few pieces. Wait. Watch. The flames dance in a flickering rhythm that makes your vision wobble. Then the baking starts. The first batch is cassava flatbread, thick discs that puff slightly at the edges when they're happy. When they're not, they blacken in seconds and turn to charcoal. You slide one tray in, using the paddle to angle it against the blistering hot brick. Your forearm brushes the oven's lip. Just a second, but it's enough. You jerk back. The burn bubbles instantly. You swallow the scream and keep going. There's a reason some older cooks refer to the oven as the mouth, because it eats you, little by little. First your skin, then your nerves, then your fear, until the fire feels like a part of your body, a quirky tidbit for you. On some plantations, the ovens were made from volcanic rock or coral stone masonry, materials that held heat so intensely that they could stay hot overnight. There are stories of cooks using leftover warmth to dry their clothes after nightfall, while keeping one eye open for rats. Back in the kitchen, your bread batch is starting to puff nicely. You exhale through your teeth just once. A small victory. Then Dede shouts from across the room, "Don't get cocky. Check the back edge." You do. One's already burnt. He walks away before you can explain. Historians often wonder whether these head cooks were collaborators or survivors. Was Dede holding the line, or holding you down? You don't have time to decide. You just rotate the trays, fan the oven mouth with a palm leaf, and try again. By the third batch, your hands are trembling. The paddle slips, just an inch. But the tray inside tilts, and the bread slides directly onto the coals. "Fire it out," someone says, tossing you a poker. You reach in, smoke choking your nose. The ash bites your skin. You fish out 2 ruined rounds. They're fused with soot. Gone. Unsalvageable. Dede watches from his corner, doesn't say a word. You place a new tray, sealing the oven again with a slab of wood. The air behind you tastes of sweat and fear. It clings. You're pulled from the oven duty, reassigned to cooling loaves. They come out golden, blistered at the edges, fragrant in that way that makes your stomach twist. Not from hunger, but from the pain of feeding others so well. You arrange them on plantain leaves. The smell fills the kitchen. For a moment, It's almost beautiful. Almost. Then the door slams open. It's not the usual overseer. This one's new. Or perhaps he's just someone you haven't seen before. He doesn't come down often. Tall, rigid posture. The kind of man who doesn't step but marches. He surveys the kitchen, stops at Dede. Then he looks around. Slowly, purposefully. Where's the woman who ran the midday prep? No one speaks. He asks again, louder. Where's the mulâtresse? Your skin prickles. You realise he means Amélie. Dede responds, She's not here today. The man narrows his eyes. Not what I asked. She's not here, Dede repeats. For a long, horrible second, the room stands still. Then the man turns, storms out. No punishment today, just silence. And in some ways, that's worse. Because silence lets the imagination do the beating. You return to the bread. A tray tips as you lift it. One of the loaves tumbles off the leaf and lands in the ash. It's still warm, still soft. Instinct makes you reach. You scoop it up, brush it off, glance around. No one is watching. You take the tiniest bite. The crust cracks. The inside steams. Your body jolts with the sudden warmth of real food. Your eyes water, not from shame, from relief. You swallow. You hide the rest. One mouthful. That's all you dare. A folk saying drifts through your head. One of the stories you overheard your first week. The oven takes more than it gives. You never knew what it meant until now, because for every loaf it bakes, it demands a pound of flesh in return. You glance at your burn, now a raw stripe of red across your arm. Payment received. The shift rolls on. Someone drops a pan. Someone else burns their hand on a lid. The boy with the cough sits too long and gets shoved. You scrub a pot until your skin flakes off with the grime, but you keep moving, keep baking, keep feeding the mouth, because once the oven gets a taste of you, it always wants more. You're back at the cauldron. Not a pot, let's be clear. A cauldron. Big enough to drown in, blackened with years of soot and hardened fat. It takes 3 people to move it, but only 1 to stir. That person today is you. You take the long wooden paddle, its handle slick from generations of hands. The stew inside is thick. Peas, bones, a handful of chopped greens and scraps of meat that might be goat, might be possum, might be better left unnamed. There's a layer of oil on top that quivers every time you breathe near it. You stir slowly, deliberately, watching how the paddle sinks and disappears into the gurgling mass. The cauldron bubbles, and so does your skin. The heat rising from this thing is unreal. Your face feels raw. Your fingers tremble. You can feel the fire through your shoes, soaking up through the soles like lava. Dede walks by and tosses in a bundle of thyme and hot pepper. Keep it moving, he says. Let it settle. It'll burn. You nod and keep the paddle turning. There's no sitting, no break, no time to shake out your arms. You stand and stir. For hours. This is your post now. The kitchen echoes with noise, chopping, shouting, the scrape of knives. Somewhere a woman sings under her breath, maybe an old lullaby, maybe just to keep rhythm. But at the cauldron, it's just you and the bubbling. Historians debate whether these massive cooking vessels were direct imports from Europe or if they evolved locally, a blend of French soup tradition and African communal stewing. Some say the very size of the pots was symbolic. 1 pot, many people, 1 rule. You're not feeling symbolic right now. You're feeling like your eyebrows are about to peel off. And still, you stir. You drift into a rhythm. Paddle in, rotate, lift, turn. Paddle in, rotate, lift, turn. Your whole body is in it now, back and forth. Muscles clenched, knees locked. It's a slow kind of dance. The kind that punishes more than it pleases. The boy with the cough shuffles over to bring you water. He doesn't say anything, just holds it out. You take a sip, it tastes like smoke. Everything does now. Hot today, he says finally. You smile barely. Cauldron always worse, he adds. And then, quietly, 1 girl fainted into it last year. They say she was already dead when she hit the broth. You pause. He walks away. You don't ask if it's true, because deep down you think it is. A quirky fact. Some plantation kitchens had superstitions about the cauldron. You never tapped it with the paddle. It was bad luck. You never looked directly into it for too long. The spirits might look back, they said, and you never ate from it first. But you're hungry. So hungry your ribs feel hollow. And no one's watching, just a spoonful, you think. You scoop from the edge, carefully, quietly, and bring it to your lips. The heat is instant. The flavour is indescribable. Rich, salty, peppery, alive. You close your eyes for 1 second, just one, and the paddle slips. It knocks against the side of the cauldron with a loud, unmistakable clang. The kitchen freezes. You freeze. Then Deday's voice, cold. "Who touched the side?" No one answers. You step forward, hand still wrapped around the paddle. "It was me," you say quietly. He walks over, looks at the cauldron, then at you. For a terrifying second, you think he's going to strike you. Instead, he says, "Add oil, stir slower, or it'll catch," and walks away. Relief floods your knees. You nearly collapse. Instead, you add oil and stir slower. You learn in that moment the difference between being punished and being tested. You passed. Barely. The sun begins to sink. Light filters through the high slats of the wall, turning the smoke gold. The cauldron continues its low, relentless burble. You're replaced by another cook. A girl maybe your age, eyes wide, arms lean. She takes the paddle without a word, and you step back, hands red and blistered, chest still heaving. You slump against the wall. Your skin smells like broth. Your shirt is soaked through. Your burns are glowing. You've survived the cauldron for today. You drag yourself over to the washing station, dunk your hands in what passes for clean water, and watch the grime swirl off your wrists like ink from a pen. The water turns grey, then brown, then black. Behind you, someone lights the evening lanterns. The flicker makes the kitchen look soft for a moment. Almost gentle. It isn't. But it pretends when the sun dips low. Dede gives you a nod as he passes. It's not approval, not warmth, just recognition. You're still here. The tray is heavy in your hands, though it holds only 6 plates. It's not the weight of the food. It's the weight of failure and the thin, quivering balance between what's acceptable and what's not. This time you've been assigned to the big house line. You weren't chosen, you were pulled. Dede pointed at you after dinner prep and said, "You carry today." No explanation, no reason. Just that same unreadable gaze, like he knows something you don't and doesn't care whether you find out. The plates you carry are for people you've never seen up close. Pork with citrus glaze, callaloo simmered with smoked fish, roasted breadfruit carved into scalloped shapes, a papaya compote so sweet it makes your teeth ache just smelling it. Each item is positioned perfectly. The colours must contrast. The sauce must not run. You've been told this with the kind of tone usually reserved for life and death instructions, because that's what this is. You walk slowly, careful not to tilt the tray. The path to the big house is long and uphill. The gravel slips beneath your feet. Your arms tremble. Halfway up, the boy with the cough whispers to you from the shade. "Don't drop it." You nod, eyes focused. Not on the house, not on the sky, just on the tray. A single misstep and everything on it is your punishment. The big house looms above, all white wood and green shutters and smug silence. The doors are open. The smell of polished brass and expensive soap greets you at the threshold. For a moment you're not sure whether you've entered a dream or a trap. A woman in a blue dress gestures to a long table. Her nose wrinkles before she even looks at you. "Over there," she says. Not to you. At you. You obey. She doesn't thank you. Doesn't meet your eyes. Just lifts a silver spoon, tastes the papaya and murmurs, "Too much nutmeg." You freeze. Did you even use nutmeg? Was that your job? You don't speak. Speaking here would be a mistake. She waves her hand. "Take it back. Redo the compote. Tell the head cook I said so." You nod, take the plate and turn. As you exit, you pass a man in fine linen with a cough. A wet, bubbling thing. He doesn't see you. Or he sees you and doesn't register what you are. You're not a person, just a shape holding a tray. You walk back down to the kitchen, heart in your throat. Inside, the air hits you like a slap. Thick with fish and smoke and the iron tang of raw plantains sizzling in oil. You find Dede, you hand him the papaya plate. "Too much nutmeg," you say. He raises one eyebrow. "There was no nutmeg." You both know what that means. It wasn't the nutmeg, it was you. Too dark, too dirty, too sweaty, too present. But the compote will be remade anyway, because orders are orders. Amelie would have known what to do, but Amelie's not here. You try not to look at her empty station. Try not to wonder whether she was sent away or punished or, worse, reassigned to the boiling room, where screams are swallowed by the roar of scalding cane. You begin slicing more papaya, carefully, slowly. This time Dedi takes over the seasoning. He doesn't speak, but his body shifts closer to you than usual. You realise he's shielding you. Historians debate whether enslaved cooks were invisible in the eyes of the masters, or deliberately dehumanised. This moment, it's both. You existed just enough to blame, not enough to understand. Quirky aside, there are stories, half-whispers, really, of cooks who use tiny errors in flavour as code. Too much nutmeg meant someone's watching. Extra pepper meant I've heard bad news. Sugar in the stew? Someone's not coming back. You wonder if you've been reading the signs wrong all along. The new compote is finished. You do not carry it this time. Another worker takes your place. You're sent to scrub pots again. It's not a demotion. It's a reprieve. You sit on the kitchen floor, scraping blackened sugar from the bottom of an iron pan. Your blistered hands ache. You hum quietly just to fill the space. No words. Just sound. The boy with the cough drops beside you. She liked the papaya, he says. You frown. But she didn't like you bringing it. You nod. Quiet. You already knew. He leans in. Next time, I'll go. There might not be a next time, but still, you nod again. The kitchen grows darker as the day slips toward dusk. Lanterns are lit. The final dishes are sent up. The coals are covered. The oven breathes out its last wave of heat. Someone hands you a bowl. It's cracked, chipped, and inside is a scoop of that same stew you stirred earlier. There's even a spoon. You're not sure if this is a mistake or a gift. You eat. It's too salty, but it's warm, and you didn't have to steal it. You look at the spoon, curved from overuse, the edge polished by mouths before yours. You wonder how many people ate from this same bowl. How many of them dreamed of being anywhere else? You stare at the door. The big house is lit now, all yellow glow and music drifting out across the sugar fields. You can't see the stars yet, but they're there, waiting. The pounding starts just after nightfall. Not drums, not music. This is the sound of hooves, fast, hard, angry, thudding against the dirt path like someone's trying to wake the dead. You freeze, bowl still in hand. So does the boy beside you. So does everyone. Dede stands slowly. He doesn't speak, just looks toward the open door. Moments later, a rider appears in the lantern light, a man in a coat too fine for the time of night, too dust-covered to have stayed on the plantation. He shouts something in French, fast and sharp. Your ears catch only fragments. Sugar mill. Shortage. Drivers need food, Dede exhales. The mill. You've heard of the sugar mill, of course. Everyone here has. You've smelled its burn, heard its groan, but you've never had to feed it. Until now. They're not asking for dinner, they're demanding it. They're working through the night, Dede mutters. No cane, no quota. No quota, we all get punished. He looks around. Soup, bread, anything hot. You don't even put your bowl down. You just get up and start peeling. Your body hurts, but there's no choice. The kitchen comes alive again, not with the tired hum of routine, but with the sharp clatter of emergency. Firewood is thrown into hearths, flames rekindled. You chop root vegetables with speed you didn't know you had. The cauldron is dragged back onto the coals. This is no longer cooking, this is damage control. You hear Dede barking orders. No meat, use the bones, more salt, they need to stay awake. The boy coughs again but doesn't stop stirring. Someone else slams a ladle onto the prep table, nearly breaking it. Another hand whips flour and water into flatbread dough, fast and rough. It's chaos, but organised, and it has to be. Historians sometimes write about the mechanization of sugar mills, the way enslaved people became extensions of the machines. But that didn't stop in the fields. It reached the kitchen too. If the mill runs, the food must run. If the mill breaks, someone bleeds. If the food is late, you bleed. You pull trays from the back wall, slather what's left of the lard onto flatbread, and toss it into the fire-scorched pan. It sizzles violently. Smoke fills your face. You blink through it. The rider waits outside, arms crossed, tapping a boot impatiently. You don't even look at him. Quirky note, cooks had codes for these midnight emergencies. Feeding the mill wasn't just literal, it meant feeding the machine of the whole plantation, keeping it oiled, masked, controlled. Some whispered that the kitchen was the final line of defence. Others said it was the first to fall. Tonight it feels like both. The soup boils, it's not good, but it's hot. You ladle it into clay bowls, 16 in total, bread stacked beside each, salt tucked in the broth to keep the men alert. No one talks as you work. The silence is thick with fear. Deddy checks every bowl, tastes one. More pepper, he says. You add more. He tastes again, then nods. The tray is loaded, and here's the part no one talks about. The person who carries it. No one wants to carry food to the mill. It's too far, too dark, too exposed. Too many didn't come back. You glance at the boy. He shakes his head slightly. Then you glance at Dede. He's already looking at you. Of course. You lift the tray. It's heavier than it should be. You walk out into the night. The air outside is wet and sharp, filled with the buzz of night insects and the far-off wheeze of grinding machinery. The mill is a black silhouette on the horizon, its arms turning like a giant's broken windmill. Orange glows from the inside. Firelight, lanterns, maybe hell itself. You pass the storeroom, the shed where you sleep. The kitchen's warmth fades behind you. Now it's just you and the dark. The tray shifts. A bowl rattles. You grip tighter. Every crunch underfoot sounds like something following you. You remember the stories about wild dogs, about men who took food as an excuse to run and vanished into the hills, about ghosts of cooks who carried trays that were never found again, their meals still hot when discovered in the underbrush. Historians tend to dismiss those tales, say they're dramatized, romanticized, but they've never walked this path at night. You reach the mill, smells of fire and molasses, of cane sweat and metal. Men move like shadows inside, coated in steam and powdery dust. Their faces are smeared with soot. Their hands never stop moving. One sees you and calls out, not gently. Food! You nod and set the tray down on a crate. They descend like hawks, hungry, fast, mechanical. You step back. One man grabs your wrist. You freeze. He stares at the soup. This yours? You shake your head. He releases you. You look dead, he says. Go back. You nod, slowly, then turn. The walk back is worse. Your legs drag. Your ears ring. Your brain buzzes with the sound of the mill. You reach the kitchen door and nearly collapse. Deddy meets your eyes. No words. But there's something in his look this time. You carried the tray and returned. It's nearly midnight now, and the kitchen is finally beginning to dim. Not rest, not stop. Just dim. Like a lantern turned down but never fully extinguished. The coals are banked. The pots are empty. The knives have been cleaned, badly, and tucked into their wooden slots. No one sharpens them tonight. The boy's curled up on a flour sack near the door, knees to chest, still coughing in his sleep. One of the older women covers him with a strip of burlap. No words, just a hand, and then gone. You sit on the edge of a crate, still dressed in the day's grease and ash. Your burn from the oven is throbbing now, angry red, skin shiny with heat. You shouldn't touch it. You do anyway. You exhale. You've made it through another day. And yet, the smell of the sugar mill still rides the air. Acrid. Smoky. Too sweet to be natural. You rub your eyes and feel the grit of flour crusted in your lashes. Suddenly Dede appears beside you. Come, he says. Not a request. You follow him outside, past the ash pile and the sour sweet stink of compost. You think he's leading you to the storeroom or the shed where you sleep. But he keeps walking. Past the wood pile. Past the cook's garden with its limp herbs and scavenged greens. Finally he stops. It's the water barrels. 3 of them, stacked under the eaves of an old rain catch. You've seen them before, but no one ever drinks from them openly. This water is clean, too clean to waste. You heard once that it was for the overseer's horses. Another time, someone said it was just in case. Tonight, Deddy prees one open and nods at you. Wash. You blink. He gestures. You're bleeding sugar. Clean it off. You strip off your apron, your shirt. Deddy turns away. The water is cold. Shockingly so. You cup it to your chest, your face, your arm. It stings your burn. Your feet feel raw. You feel something close to alive. You rinse again and again. Dede speaks while facing away. You're strong, he says. But that don't mean you'll last. You nod, unsure what else to do. Amelie was strong too, he adds. The words hang. You want to ask? You don't. He doesn't clarify. Historians often wonder how much enslaved cooks knew about resistance, sabotage, even planned revolts. The kitchens were always close to the big house, close to whispers, doors, letters, but they were also heavily watched. And some things were never spoken aloud. A quirky fact. Some kitchens developed ways to pass messages hidden in loaves of bread. A cut crust meant danger. A hollowed bun meant someone had escaped. Even the direction of a knife score could send a warning. You've never seen these signs, but tonight you wonder if Amelie did. You finish washing. Diddy doesn't say anything else. He just leaves, slipping back into the shadows without a sound. You sit on the barrel's edge for a moment, shirt clutched in your lap. You stare at your hands. They look like they belong to someone older, someone broken in. You wonder if they do. Back inside, the kitchen is quieter. The others are settling into sleep, some on sacks, some on benches. One man curls under the prep table like a cat. You lie down in your corner, the dirt still warm from earlier fires. Sleep doesn't come easy. Your body hums with aches. Your mind races. You think about the boy with the cough, about Amelie, about the look in Dede's eyes, about the plate of papaya, about the man in linen with the bubbling lungs. You think about what it means to cook for people who might die from what you feed them, or might kill you because of it. You think about the mill still spinning in the dark, pulling in more bodies like yours and chewing them to pieces. You think about escape, just for a second. You remember a story, one told in whispers, never during daylight, about a cook who left a pot of stew on the fire, walked out the back door and was never seen again. People say she became a maroon, living in the hills, free. Others say she was found by hounds 3 days later and dragged back in chains. No one really knows, but you think about her now, because even the idea of leaving is dangerous. You roll onto your side, face toward the wall. The coals pop once, a final crackle of heat, then silence. Your stomach growls again. You ignore it. Your burn itches. You leave it. You think you hear footsteps in the garden. You keep your eyes closed, because tonight you need the illusion of sleep, even if it never comes. The pantry is alive. You realise this around hour 4 of your morning shift, back in that narrow, heat-choked hallway, stacked with sacks of flour, barrels of brine, and shelves so old they bow in the middle like tired backs. It smells worse today. Sour, wet, vaguely sweet in a way that hints at decay. You step inside with a torch stub in one hand and a wooden scoop in the other. Your job is simple. Fetch more rice. But the pantry has its own agenda. As you reach for the burlap sack, something moves. Not a breeze, something living. You freeze, and then you see it. A rat. No, rats. 4, maybe 5, scuttling across the grain shelf like they own the place. One pauses on a ledge and stares at you with the calm confidence of a creature that knows you can't touch it. You don't scream. That would be pointless. You just step back slowly and reach for the broom. No one comes to help. No one would help. Rats are a part of life here, just like the heat, the burns, the pain. You don't remove them. You negotiate with them. You tap the shelf with the broom handle. The rats vanish, temporarily. You scoop the rice. Fast. You don't check it. You never check it. You'll find the bugs later. Historians love to romanticize the ingenuity of enslaved cooks. How they used dried orange peel and lime juice to cleanse food. How they soaked rice to separate out pests. All true. But it wasn't about creativity. It was about survival. No one wanted to eat weevils, but sometimes you just did. Quirky tidbit. One cook claimed she could smell which rice had maggots just by its warmth. Living rice is warmer than dead, she once said. You think of that now as you carry your scoop back into the kitchen. The light stings your eyes. You blink. More? Didi asks. You nod. Check the yam bin too, he says. You do. And that's where you find the roaches. Big ones. The kind that crunch. They scatter as you lift the lid. You catch your breath and slam the cover back down. Dede shrugs when you report it. Brush them off. You want to ask, is that safe? But then you remember where you are. Nothing's safe. It's just edible. Or not. You brush them off. The yams are soft. A few are already turning. You pick the firmest ones. One has a bite taken out of it. You don't want to know what did it. You leave that one behind. Back in the prep line, you're on stew duty again. The pot is already hot. The oil pops when you drop in the diced onions and yam cubes. A sizzling cloud rises, bringing tears to your eyes and lifting the scent of old garlic and something burnt you can't identify. You add salt, stir, add greens, stir. The boy with the cough walks by with a bucket. His face is pale today. He doesn't speak. You wonder how long he'll last. Later, while skimming oil off the top, you find a bug in the broth. Not a floating leaf, not a spice pod. A bug. Boiled. Legs curled. You fish it out with a wooden spoon and flick it to the floor. No one blinks. The stew keeps bubbling. In the corner, one of the kitchen women pours sugar into a pot of sliced breadfruit. Not just a little sugar. A lot. Enough to make a syrup. You raise your eyebrows. She shrugs. It's for the lady, she says. Still sick. Ah. So the illness upstairs isn't over. You suddenly remember the whispers about Amelie, about Ginger, about the wrong papaya. You look at the breadfruit again. Wonder what's really in that sugar, and then quickly look away. Because asking means noticing, and noticing means blame. Lunch is assembled on platters, stew, breadfruit, a little boiled rice. Simple, heavy, filling. Dede inspects every bowl. His eyes linger on one for a moment longer than the others. Then he nods. It goes out. You get the broom and sweep under the tables. The floor is thick with crumbs, bits of yam peel and something red that might have once been tomato. A roach darts past your foot. You don't flinch this time. There's no time to flinch. A moment later, someone drops a jar of oil. It smashes across the floor. The room tenses. You expect Dede to shout, but he doesn't. He just sighs. Scrape it up. You do. Your knees sink into the mess. The oil coats your palms. You work in silence. The heat from the oven behind you makes your skin prickle. This is how accidents happen. You know this. You've seen it before. Slipping. Falling. One cook sliced open his thigh after tripping on spilled grits. Bled out before anyone could stop the flow. You work slower now. Deliberate. Careful. The cleanup takes nearly an hour. By the time you finish, the stew is gone, the trays are empty, and the kitchen is already shifting into its next breath. Dinner prep. And you're still scraping roach droppings off the yam bin, still peeling labels off rusted tins, still pretending not to notice the rats nesting under the flour sacks. This is the pantry. It's not a room, it's a mouth. It chews and it waits, and it swallows whatever you leave behind, even if it's part of you. Your back finally gives out somewhere between the third and fourth sack of cassava flour. It happens slowly, like a string snapping in slow motion. First, a tightness in your lower spine, the kind that hums instead of screams. Then, as you hoist the sack to your shoulder, a jolt sharp enough to make your knees buckle. You drop it, hard. The flour explodes in a soft white puff, clouding the air like a ghost rising from the floor. You fall with it, your knees thudding against the dirt, your breath caught in your chest. No one rushes to help, because injuries in this kitchen aren't emergencies, they're routine. The woman closest to you glances over and tosses you a rag. "Tie your waist," she says. You nod, tying the rag around your middle like a makeshift brace, ignoring the way your hands shake. "Stand up slow," she adds. "Or don't stand at all." You do as she says, and then you keep going. The sack is only half empty, and there's more flour to sift, more cassava cakes to mix, more griddle smoke to inhale. Dede sees you limping and doesn't comment. He just says, "Use the bench, sit if you need, but don't stop." That's about as close to mercy as you'll ever get from him. You take the bench and begin grating cassava root, careful not to let your knuckles meet the jagged metal teeth. The rhythm is slower now, painful. Every twist of your torso feels like a blade, and still, you don't stop. Historians note the high rates of physical trauma among enslaved kitchen workers, not just burns and cuts, but overuse injuries, collapsed arches, herniated discs. Most were untreated. The kitchen was not a hospital, it was a machine. Broken parts were either forced to keep working or quietly replaced. You think of Amelie again, the way she never flinched, the way she walked like someone who'd buried pain so deep it became a second skeleton. You wonder if that's what's happening to you now. Quirky note, on some plantations cooks used homemade ointments, ashes mixed with rum, lime juice rubbed into joints, pig fat blended with herbs, You've seen these jars tucked into cracks in the kitchen wall. Dede uses one. You've seen him rub it into his knees before sunrise. You wish you knew what was in it. A breeze slips through the kitchen window carrying the scent of sugar cane and wet earth. You let it wash over your face. You pretend it's a breeze from the sea, somewhere far away, somewhere cool. But then the wind shifts, and you smell blood. The butcher's assistant stumbles in from the rear courtyard dragging a carcass behind him. He's sweating, face pale, one arm soaked to the elbow. It's goat, barely skinned. You see the ribs still spotted with fur, its eye hangs loose. You look away too slowly. Dede barks, strip the fat, save the organs, bones go to the broth pot. You don't argue, you can't. You limp over, blade in hand, and begin carving. The meat is still warm. The smell gets inside your nose and won't leave. You saw through tendon, slice through skin, pry fat from muscle. Your fingers slip more than once. No deep cuts, just reminders. One organ slips onto the ground, the boy scoops it up and sets it back on the tray. You nod at him. He doesn't nod back. His cough is getting worse. You worry, but you don't say it, because worrying here is a luxury. The meat goes into the cauldron, the bones to the fire. The blood-soaked cloths are rinsed and wrung until the water turns pink. You sit again, back twitching. The bench creaks beneath you. No one offers relief, but no one moves you either. Dede walks by and drops a small jar beside you. It's cloudy with a wax-sealed top. You look up at him. For the back, he mutters, then walks away. You crack the seal and dip your fingers in. It smells like mint, lime, and something bitter, maybe tobacco. You rub it into your lower spine. It stings, then cools, then almost miraculously it eases. You don't say thank you, but Dede knows you mean it. Later, as you knead cassava dough into heavy rounds, someone asks aloud, for the first time in days, "Anyone seen the cough boy?" You look up. He's not in the corner, he's not in the garden, he's not in the storeroom. You check near the water barrels. Nothing. The others start whispering. One says he was taken to the mill. Another says he collapsed behind the coop. A third claims he just walked away in the night, into the cane, without a sound. You keep kneading, because if you stop now, you'll fall apart. Dinner prep continues. Your back throbs. Your heart stings. The bench groans as you lean forward, arms wrapped around a bowl of dough like it's the only thing anchoring you to this world. And maybe, for now, it is. You roll the dough into uneven rounds, hands moving without thought now. Muscle memory has taken over. Knead, shape, press, flatten, repeat. Your back is a scream with the volume turned down. You've learned to work through it. You've learned that stopping is dangerous. The griddle is already hot when you bring over the cassava cakes. The metal sizzles as you drop the first one. The smell is toasty and comforting, almost enough to trick you into thinking this is normal. But the silence in the kitchen tells a different story. No one is talking. The boy with the cough is still gone. You can feel it in the air, like a missing beat in a familiar rhythm. Dede walks past, doesn't look at you, doesn't look at anyone. That's the only sign you get that something is wrong. You flip the cake, it's browning unevenly. The fire is too hot in one spot. You shift the pan slightly. No one helps, no one comments. When you bring the finished cakes to the prep table, the others step aside, not rudely, just mechanically, like you're a cog now. One of them. You've survived enough shifts to become part of the structure. And yet, you're still thinking about him. You pass the bench where he used to sit. A rat is there now, nibbling something. You don't chase it off. You sit down instead. Just for a minute. The room blurs a little. You blink hard. A spoon drops to the floor. You flinch. But it's just a spoon. Nothing else happens. You let your breath out slowly. From the far end of the kitchen, a sharp voice rings out. "Where's the pepper sauce?" Your stomach drops, because that's your station today. You hobble to the spice shelf. The bottle's still there. You grab it, bring it over. The sauce is thick and crimson, glistening with Scotch bonnet seeds and vinegar. Too thick. You glance at the shelf, realise you were supposed to thin it. Just a splash of lime water. You forgot. Dede is watching. You open your mouth to explain, but nothing comes out. Not words, not breath. He takes the bottle, pours it into a small pot, adds water himself, tastes it, nods, and says nothing. You should be relieved, but you're not, because this kitchen is a courtroom, And today, you are on trial. Historians talk about punitive discipline in plantation kitchens, how punishment wasn't always immediate. Sometimes it waited, stewed, got passed down in extra duties, missed rations, or just the absence of help when you needed it most. Sometimes punishment was silence. Quirky fact, some cooks carved symbols into wooden utensils to track how often they made mistakes. A notch meant one scold. 2 meant a warning. 3, the spoon was burned and you got reassigned, usually to the mill or worse, the latrine trench. You check your spoon. No notches yet. But you feel one being carved deep into your mind. You return to the bench, barely sitting before another call echoes. Dumplings. You rise. Slowly. Like someone older than time. You're back at the prep table, flour dust in your eyes. You mix with water and salt, knead it into shape. Your fingers stick. Your wrists shake. You think about the boy again. Where would they have taken him? If he was too sick to work, too weak to be useful, there's only one place. Behind the cane fields near the edge of the forest is a patch of land no one talks about. The burial place. No markers, no names, just mounds. You press harder into the dough. Don't cry, don't cry. Because tears are useless here. The dumplings are dropped into the pot. They float. You don't. The stew is ladled again. The trays are filled. The servers pick them up and carry them out. Mechanical, practiced, quiet. You take a deep breath, then realise it's shallow. Your ribs won't expand any farther. You slump onto the bench again, stealing a moment. One moment. Dede walks by, drops something into your lap. You look down. It's the boy's spoon, cracked at the edge. The handle worn smooth, his initials carved faintly into the wood. You look up. Dede's already gone. You hold the spoon. You want to believe it's a kindness, but maybe it's a warning, that nothing here stays, not even the ones who seem too quiet to be a threat. The pot boils behind you. The kitchen exhales, you inhale, and keep going. There's a barrel of rum in the storeroom. You've passed it 100 times. Squat, blackened, banded in iron. It sits in the corner like a sleeping dog, unnoticed by day, feared at night. No one talks about it, but everyone knows it's there. And today, for the first time, someone opens it. You don't know his name. He's one of the young ones. Newer than you, maybe. Thin, wiry. Not yet worn down into that kitchen shape the rest of you share. He waits until the others are hauling trays outside. Then he slips behind the oil jugs, pries the stopper, and cups his hands. You see the whole thing, and so does Dede. It happens fast, too fast. A shout, a crash, a struggle. The boy drops the rum, and the puddle spreads dark across the dirt like blood. Dede's hands are like iron. He grabs him by the collar, hauls him out into the open. Silence falls over the kitchen. Not the quiet of fear, the quiet of inevitability. No one touches the barrel, Dede says. Calm, cold. The boy is shaking. He tries to speak. Can't. Dede's voice drops even lower. You think you're the first? You think we don't smell it when the cork's moved? The boy doesn't move, and Dede doesn't strike him. No, that would be too simple. Instead, he does something worse, he tells the overseer. You watch from the door as the boy is marched out toward the cane rows. The man waiting for him carries rope. Not a whip. Rope. They say the punishment for stealing rum isn't lashing, it's vanishing. You turn back to the kitchen. The rum puddle still glistens on the floor. Sweet, reeking. You grab a rag and start to wipe it up. Every swipe feels like it smears guilt across the ground. You weren't the one who drank, but you saw. You didn't stop it. And here, silence makes you complicit. Historians debate whether rum was rationed to enslaved workers as reward, pacifier, or poison. Some claim it was used to numb minds, dull rebellion. Others say it was currency, passed hand to hand when the overseer turned away. You've never had it. Not a drop. But today, its scent haunts you. Quirky detail. Some kitchen workers used rum for cooking. Just a splash, to deepen a sauce or soften tough meat. But you were only allowed to use what was measured out. Any more than that, and it became theft. You wring the rag until your knuckles ache. The floor is still sticky, and the boy? Gone. The rest of the day carries on like nothing happened. Bowls clatter, bread bakes, the stew thickens. You chop vegetables with your head down. You don't ask if anyone else saw. You know they did. That's the unspoken rule. No one sees anything. Not the coughing boy, not the missing woman, not the rum thief, just food, just fire, just duty. You slice a plantain, then another. The knife slips. You nick your thumb, just a scrape. You wipe the blood on your apron and keep going. That's all anyone ever does here. Keep going. Later, while stacking trays for supper, you hear laughter. Real laughter. It floats in through the slats. Bright, girlish. The sound of someone who's never cleaned blood off a storeroom floor. The master's daughter. You see her for the first time as she passes by on a pony, hair in ribbons, boots polished. She looks at the kitchen, nose wrinkled, and then she's gone. Like a ghost in reverse. So clean, so untouched. You question if she was even real. You turn back to your work. Dede walks by and places a bowl on the table in front of you. Leftover cassava cake. Cold, but whole. For the pain, he mutters. You eat. It sticks to your throat. The fire behind you crackles softly. You wonder if this is all the reward there is. A slice of cold bread after a day of silence. Your back aches. Your hands burn. You stare at the knife on the table. It glints, not invitingly, just reminding you it's there. You pick it up and return to slicing, because if you stop, the rum barrel might be waiting, and this time it'll have your name. Tonight you don't sleep, not because you're awake by choice, but because your body refuses to shut down. You lie on the floor of the storage shed, wrapped in a sheet stiff with flour dust, muscles twitching like they're still working. Every time you close your eyes, you see that puddle of rum again. That boy's face, the rope. No one talks about it now, but everyone knows. Your mind spins with questions you can't afford to ask. How much time did he have left? Did he ever get a full meal? Was it even about the rum? Or did they just need a reason? A rooster crows somewhere in the distance, too early or too late. You sit up. Mornings blur into each other now. There's no beginning, no end. Just one long stream of smoke, fire, chopping, stirring, burning. If you're lucky, a slice of yam between. You don't wait to be called. You rise before the others, quietly, silently. You push the door open and walk into the blackened courtyard. The sky's still dark, stars fading. The ash pit glows faintly like a grave that breathes. You take a minute to breathe too, but just one, because you know what happens if you linger. You're back at the prep station before the coals are lit. You start washing the greens, callaloo, wild herbs, rough leaves that scratch your fingers. You dunk them in water that smells faintly of clay and rot. Then you start chopping. The kitchen wakes around you. Feet scuff. Pans clatter. Voices murmur. Dede arrives. Doesn't say anything, just nods. He knows you didn't sleep. He can see it in your face, but he won't call it out. He respects silence. Breakfast is a rush of hot breadfruit, salted fish and mashed plantain. Basic. Filling. Dull. You cut the fish into chunks, scale it, remove the bones. Your fingers are faster now. Even your cuts have a rhythm. You're handed a clay bowl of cornmeal to stir. You take it without protest. The cauldron steams. The ladle is too long, the handle splintered. You stir anyway. The boy with the one good eye mutters near you. Rain's coming. You glance up. The sky's still blue, but you believe him. You always do. By noon, he's proven right. The rain slams down like a punishment. Instant, heavy, unrelenting. It drums against the roof in thunderous sheets. The fires hiss. The oven sputters. Smoke floods the kitchen. Water pours through cracks in the roof, down the walls, across the floor. Everything soaks. You're handed a bucket. Scoop, someone says. You do. The water is ankle deep by the second hour. Shoes squish. Bread spoils. Firewood turns soft. Dede barks orders. Cover the flour. Move the coals. You run. You stumble. You slip. The floor is slick now. Dangerous. Someone falls. Not you. The woman next to you. Her hip cracks the corner of the prep table. She cries out once, then bites it back. You reach for her. She swats your hand away. No help, she says. But you still slide the mat under her so she can sit. She doesn't thank you. She doesn't have to. Historians often overlook the weather. They write of plantation economies, of sugar exports and mortality rates. But rain ruins everything. Soaked firewood, rotten grain, mud in the stew, A kitchen half underwater and no option to stop. You slosh through it, ladle in hand, because people still need to eat, even if the ceiling caves in. Quirky tidbit. Some kitchens collected rainwater for cooking, believing it softened beans faster. Others thought it was cursed, especially when it came during mealtime. Rain brings sickness, they said. Rain carries memory. You're not sure which version is true, but you don't drink it. You keep stirring, keep wiping, keep chopping, until someone calls out, "Bread's ruined." The oven's fire went out. You gather with the others around the soaked loaves, sagging, cracked, useless. No one speaks. Then Day picks one up, rips it in half and bites it. He chews, slowly, then spits it out. Start over. A quiet groan ripples through the room, not loud, not defiant, just exhausted. You pull more cassava from the bin, start grating, again. Later, once the rain slows, you find yourself alone behind the kitchen, scooping ash from a flooded fire pit. The smell of wet charcoal and old stew clings to your shirt. You pause, only for a moment. You reach into your pocket and pull out the boy's spoon. You still carry it. Why? You don't know. Maybe it reminds you that he was real. Maybe it reminds you that you still are. You press your thumb into the worn initials, then slide it back into your pocket. You return to the kitchen. You don't need to be told what to do. The pot is already boiling, and the machine needs feeding, always. The light has a strange quality today. Grey, washed out, as if the sky itself has lost interest in shining. It spills through the smoke-slicked slats of the kitchen like a dying candle, casting long, colourless shadows. You don't look up. You don't need to. You've lived in this light for too long to find it curious anymore. You're scraping a pot clean, one of the big ones used for the midday stew. Bits of yam cling to the iron like barnacles. You scrub until your fingers cramp, then keep scrubbing. That's how everything works here. You don't stop when it hurts. You stop when someone else takes your place. No one has. The boy's spoon is in your pocket. Again, it lives there now. Sometimes you forget it's there until you reach for a rag or a cloth and feel the smooth curve of its handle against your palm. He hasn't come back, and no one speaks his name, like Amelie, like the rum thief. Like all the others, the pot you're cleaning once fed 50 people. Now it feeds no one. It's cracked. Hairline, almost invisible, but enough that it leaks when filled. Dede noticed this morning. Didn't say much. Just dragged it out behind the coop and left it sitting in the weeds. You stood there with it for a while, watching the way it dripped. You understood it. You finished scraping and moved to the prep table, where you start slicing mangoes for the overseer's wife. She wants thin slivers, someone says. No bruises, no skin. You wonder if she ever thinks about where her fruit comes from. Probably not. You slice carefully, slowly, each piece perfect. Because today, you're not getting caught in anyone's story. Dede walks by, slows. He watches your hands, the knife, the slivers. Then he says, "You've lasted longer than most." You don't answer, because lasting isn't the same as surviving, and surviving isn't the same as living. He nods once, walks away. The mangoes go on a tray. You wipe the knife. You wash your hands. Another shift ends. Another begins. The kitchen is quieter than usual. Not silent, but quieter. One woman sings to herself. An old tune in a language you don't know. Maybe Yoruba. Maybe Congo. Maybe something born right here between fire and ash. You let it fill the air, mix with the steam, curl into your brain like a balm. The firewood has been moved. The coals reset. A new batch of dumplings is forming under skilled hands. You know them all now, not their names, their movements, and they know yours. You mop the floor, one stroke at a time. The water is cleaner today. The rag's less foul. That's something. Outside you hear drums. Not close. Somewhere in the hills. Not for you, not yet. You pause with the mop, just a second, and you think, really think about what it would take to run. Not in a story, not in a whispered tale, but for real. Through the cane, into the trees, past the dogs, past the watchtowers, past the death they promise. You imagine it. Wind in your face, dirt on your knees, the smell of sea salt and leaves. Freedom. And then someone shouts your name. The name they gave you, not the one you were born with. And you turn back to the floor. Because today isn't the day. Not yet. But the idea is planted, deep, like a root that might bloom when no one's watching. The sun dips lower, shadows stretch. The evening meal is finished. The trays have been carried away. The firebanks are smothered. D-Day sets down the knife for the first time in hours. He looks tired, older than yesterday. He meets your eyes, and you nod. He nods back. No words. No need. Because here, in this room of heat and knives and smoke and silence, the strongest bond is survival, and that's yours now. The fires have burned low now. The smoke is soft, no longer biting, just a whisper in the rafters. You sit in the doorway, legs folded beneath you, forehead resting on your arms. The air is warm, not with danger, but with the slow fading of the day, a kind of stillness, a rare golden quiet. Outside, the cicadas sing, distant frogs croak, leaves rustle. Inside, everything has settled. The oven is cooling, the knives are sheathed, the ghosts for now have gone to sleep. Your body is sore in places you can't name, but it's whole, and it's yours. That counts for something. You close your eyes, breathing in the scent of wood smoke, lime peel, and wet earth. The same smells that haunted you now lull you. Familiar, heavy, real. The kitchen no longer hisses at you. Tonight, it breathes with you. Even the memory of the boy feels gentler now, not erased, just woven into the silence, a thread in the long cloth of survival. You lean back, let the warmth in your limbs lengthen. Let your thoughts drift like steam, lifting higher and higher until they vanish into the rafters. You're still here, and tomorrow you will be again. For now, rest. Let the coals sleep, let the knives dream, let the sugar cool, and if you hear footsteps in the dark, maybe it's just the kitchen stretching its bones. Let it pass. You're safe here, for tonight. Good night, night, 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 good night.